Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. Today, I am joined by Gary Garth, and I'm going to read this for a minute because he is the founder and CEO of Elevate.io, Great Dane Ventures, and the Accelerator Platform.io. He's author of the 0 to 100 Million Sales Blueprint book and the Goals, Grit, and Greatness Planner. He leverages resources as a sales leader and angel investor, helping high potential startups go to market, scale, and become profitable via 360-degree sales and marketing support, incubator programs, advisory services, proprietary technology. It's all engineered with the purpose of empowering entrepreneurs. He's been featured in Inc., Forbes, Success, and many other prominent publications. And he has been a serial entrepreneur since 2002, right?
Yes.
And he successfully created, started, and exited 6 companies, which is really, really amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Gary.
Thank you so much for having me, Kendra.
So tell us a little bit more about you, whatever I didn't cover in the biography, because I know you're in South America, right?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, of
But you're
course.
not originally from there.
I am not. And that was a long bio, so I'll try to speak in between the lines and on all the buzzwords, et cetera else. I'm originally from Denmark, Europe, so in case the accent hadn't revealed that already. I've lived the last 15 years abroad, focused a lot on building businesses stateside. I lived several years in Miami, but many years in Latin America. Right now, the last 2 years I've lived in Medellin, Colombia. Medellin has this vision of becoming the Silicon Valley of Latin America, so which drew me here. I was invited by this government initiative of bringing foreign investment that has a tech focus per se. They have different incentives to cultivate growth, create job impact, and particularly just that whole sector, grow it, so to speak. So that's why I'm here. I'm involved in a couple of different projects right now. I'm also an angel investor, partially, but I'm very passionate as a whole on just applying these last 25 years. I worked a lot with sales and marketing, everything from direct sales to channel sales, lead generation, the enabling other folks to sell, helping other companies install systems or just my own companies. And that's why I wrote the book. That's why my companies work a lot on helping companies basically with revenue optimization. So what does that mean? There's a lot of things to unpack in that, but I'm sure we'll cover several of the topics.
Yes, for sure. And I do have a copy of his book. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. The 0 to 100 Million Sales Blueprint. And I haven't finished reading it yet, so I'm in process. But one of the things that I love that you talk about in there is that one of the best and most useful things that you can do is talk to customers.
Yes.
And pick up the phone, call them, and talk to people, right? Tell me more
Amen.
about that, because I preach that all the time.
Amen. And I know, and with your audience of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people wanting to launch their own business, I think it's probably that one skill that is somehow neglected, right? As an angel investor, I get pitched hundreds of projects as well on a monthly basis, and I'm always baffled to see that analysis paralysis that have almost gone into creating the product, designing this new innovative concept that they're trying to go to market with. But sales comes at the end of the line, right? And I'm always like, have you tried to create an MVP? Have you gone out and pitched it? Have you put yourself in prospective customers and got their live feedback, right? So you can optimize the product, etc. And many founders, they put that to the very end, which is sometimes can be the difference between making it and breaking it, from my humble experience. So I would say any founder should always be the chief sales officer as well. I mean, don't expect to hire other people to come in and solve your problem selling it. If you can't sell your own solution that you're passionate about, all the ins and outs of it, every single detail, you are purposely that's why you launched the company in the first place, then don't expect others to come in and fill that void, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that there's a ton of people that just, one, don't like picking up the phone and calling people to find out information, to make sure that what you're building is solving a problem for people. I struggle with what that disconnect is, because I don't mind picking up the phone. I actually have 3 phone calls that I'm doing today, testing a new product launch, because I want to make sure that I'm creating the stuff that people want, right?
Amen.
And it's just such common sense, but people really struggle with it. What's the top reason? Do you hear any reasons as to why people haven't done those phone calls, haven't done that research and had the calls with and talked to people?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's understanding if it's in your DNA or not. And I'm not saying that, I have a whole chapter in my book that's called Great Salespeople Are Made, Not Born. I believe if you have the right attributes, right, if you have the right attitude, then you can definitely learn the skills. But if it's just not your personality and so forth, you might want to partner up with somebody who can do that. You have a co-founder in the company, or have a key hire that can take that on, because you have to be willing to go through the rejections, which is what I think people they fear, right? They take it personal, right? It's just, I always tell my reps, it's just bad timing, they're in another commitment, otherwise they're unaware of the need. There's a million different reasons why they reject you. You should instead just focus on the positive conversation. And I think a lot of it is also because of lack of preparation. Sure, if you just pick up the phone and start cold calling people, you're not going to get very far. But if you have, down to a science, dissected your entire, total addressable market into who's your ideal customer profile, what do they look like, where are they searching, what's their pain points, understanding them in depth, going on forums, researching, potentially even hired some of them as consultants to get real life feedback, working on clients for free to some extent, just to learn the ins and outs and all the pain points, so you can speak their language. Once you're well equipped with that intelligence, that knowledge, your confidence level just goes up, and then sales is fun, right? Because then you start counting the victories, and you're less focused on the rejections. So it's all about the preparation, I would say.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that I think a lot of people are scared to get no's. Don't be scared. I had a sales coach tell me one time, because the only 2 things to be scared of are death and dismemberment. That's it. You should not be scared of the word no. It's all good.
I want to know on a call. Like, the worst thing is somebody just sitting there not saying anything. At least I don't have any rebuttals that I can, counter, right? I don't have anything. I don't understand where they're coming from, their position. Are they satisfied or not? I want a yes or no, actually. I'm pushing them towards it. So as long as it's in the right context, it can be very helpful in your sales process.
Yes, very much. So one of the other things that you talked about was really understanding your competition helps. And I know that that's a basic part of the average marketing plan and business plan and things like that. And I think having an idea of who your competitors are is good. But sometimes I find that companies that are on the smaller side sometimes get blinded and laser focused on their competition, and then they become sort of like an also ran, or just a copy with a couple of tweaks of the competitor. When you're telling people to study their competition, what do you mean? And feel free to disagree with me, because I'm totally fine with that.
No, I think first and foremost, it comes like understanding, are you operating from a blue ocean, red ocean strategy, that popularized concept, right? Understanding where are you navigating, because if you're competing on price and service levels, other small differentiating factors, then you have to understand the competition to that extent. But it can also be leveraged as intelligence to see how can we position ourselves entirely differently, right? What are they doing? How are they messaging? And I wholeheartedly agree with you. Like, the worst thing you can do as an entrepreneur is just look at the competition and try to do a slight modification. Like, set the bar higher, goddamn, right? I just want to concur with your statement first and foremost. But what I mean about, for instance, a process, I was first introduced to like back in 2016 when I had a large 8-figure agency. We're growing exponentially, and Google did a mystery shopping process on me, on us, and created like a fake company, a fake SMB company, called in, submitted the lead, had one of my sales rep call. They went through the whole process. They signed up with us. They underwent 2-3 months of service. Just so 4 months later, they would say, hey, Gary, we would like to provide you with this feedback. We signed up for your services, and here's a 4-month report on what we did. I was like, holy shit. You know, but that intelligence it gave me so much insight. I was like, wait a minute, that's a freaking smart way to go about it. Not to just know the competition, but what I started doing at a consistent basis in any company I'm involved is doing a mystery shopping process. Why? So I can figure out how can we position ourselves differently, more effectively. Because one thing is you go to the website, you see the products, the solution, how they're highlighting the features, etc. Another thing is picking up the phone, talking with a sales rep. You know, how long time does it take before they get back to you when you submit an inquiry? You know, the time from for instance, solution demo to proposal issued, right? What's the entire process? What are they focusing on? And with all that intelligence combined with all your traditional market competitor research, I put that into what I call like a battle card, a competitor scorecard. Because if you're building out a sales team, it's hard to, in a short 2-3 month ramp up period, give a sales rep all that knowledge that you have accumulated over a long period of time as a founder or as a sales leader. But you can give them this cheat sheet, one pager that says, here's the competition, here's what they focus on, here's the strengths and weaknesses, here's how the position, here's maybe the less favorable contract terms that you can emphasize over another. And that way, at least you're not walking into a gunfight with a knife when you're talking with prospects about competing solutions. And you can ask questions like, who you're considering. That's a great choice. They're very known for XYZ. Never talk bad about them per se, but here's how most of my clients, they say why they prefer us over them. And then you can just highlight the positives. That goes a long way if you have all that information. But that takes a little time. It takes a little time, but it's worth it.
I find that anything, worth doing that's going to move the needle is always going to take a little bit of time, right? Calling people, doing the research, figuring out what you need done. All of that stuff takes a little time, but it makes such an impact on your business that you've got to be willing to not just create stuff all the time, but to move to that next level and actually do more. So, all right, so you talk also, which I love, in God we trust. This is chapter 6. In God we trust, everyone else bring data, which I love that phrase because I know I've heard it from other clients of mine, and I think I've said it myself.
Probably 100 times.
But it takes out the emotion, right?
Yeah.
And it makes things a lot easier to take a look at because, everything that you're creating in your business, it's your baby. Right? Mm-hmm. You love it. You care for it. You've nurtured it. But you got to look at the numbers because the numbers don't lie and they take out that emotion. Talk a little bit more about that and the importance in sales and marketing for that.
Well, specifically in sales and marketing, right? I get asked all the time by clients like, in 2023, what's the one thing I can do to double my revenues? I don't know what you're doing right now. I don't know where you're doing good and where you're doing less good. I don't know what you're done doing at all. So the very first thing, as I put in my book, is 20 sales metrics that every business should have in place and monitoring ongoing. Because you can take those metrics, there's a ton of information online. You can benchmark how am I doing versus industry standards, just to say, okay, is my email open rates just like 1/10 of what they should be? Maybe we should work on the headline or the platform or the system or the messaging, right? If our lead closing rates sucks, well, maybe we need to improve our solution demo process and give our sales reps some training or interactive process on how to present the solutions, right? Whatever the data reveals is where you can put in your efforts and overall optimize your process. So that's why I think it's so important. And I'm also, because the last 15 years, I worked a lot in marketing. I was one of the leading resellers for both Google and Microsoft. We have hundreds of millions in managed spend. So when you have that kind of insight into campaigns on marketing across a variety of verticals, you start seeing that, okay, especially as a marketing agency, you got clients say, hey, why this is not working out for us, and you start looking at, okay, let's start understanding the leads and who's responding to them, how we're responding. For every 10 phone calls, how many of those turn into a client? That's where sometimes you can make a big difference on the overall efficiency of your business, reducing costs, eradicating just irrelevant process, eradicating ineffective or non-profitable marketing channels, understanding the data. Sometimes you can spend less to make more. So it's just slowing down a little bit, having the data in front of you, and just analyzing. It's not rocket science. It's not big, complex formulas. It's just understanding. If you map out your customer journey, let's try to quantify that entire process and set some benchmarks so we can know, are we performing at a high level? If we add new people to the equation, there's a standard, this is an expectation, right? And then if they're not performing, then we can put in efforts and coach them towards that level. So it's mission critical. I would say it's probably one of the most important chapters in my book, and what I would emphasize everybody should put an immediate need on, because if you don't have that, maybe you don't have the right system in place. Do you have a CRM or technology or dashboards, reporting? Can you track what's going on, or are you just throwing a lot of shit up against the wall hoping it sticks?
It's so true. I just had a meeting this morning and with one of my networking groups, and we were talking about the Pareto principle that 80% of your business comes from 20% or 80% of your profitability, right, comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your sales comes from 20% of your marketing. All of it ties back. And it's just a very small amount that's really moving that needle. And the more you can hone in on it, the more profitable and the more sales you can do. Now, there's always got to be a percentage of testing, I think, in marketing, because, it's always changing.
Inevitable.
Right?
Yeah. So what was the takeaway in this mastermind group of yours? Like, why are people not necessarily doubling down?
We
on
actually
that
just we were talking about our to-do lists and productivity, and it came up out of that. And we basically were saying that 80% of what you're doing on a daily basis is not driving revenue.
Yeah.
So stop doing that. Or figure out how you can outsource it, what you can do with that, so that you can focus on the 20%.
Yes.
And where you make that difference. And you talk about that a little bit in the book.
That's the
too,
core
right?
of my book.
Doing what you do?
Double down on your strengths and delegate the rest, basically, right? Understand what you're good at, what you don't like to do, what you don't want to do, and instead of master the other things. And especially if you're good at sales and marketing, then double down on that, and very quickly identifying if you're not good at it, find the right partner or to solve that for you, because otherwise you're steering towards bankruptcy. But you're also steering towards a life of unfulfillment, is my point in the chapter. It's like, there's great fulfillment in doing something you're good at and enjoying it, right? That's, for me, what life is about almost.
Yeah, no, I love what I do. And someone was like, you're working on Saturday or you're working on Sunday? And I'm like, yeah, but I love it. I'd rather do it than like hang out at the house and have my husband tell me like he needs help with the grass or picking weeds or something. I'm like, that's not my thing. So that's always good. So one of the other things that you talk about is creating case studies, proposals, testimonials. What's one tip that you could give to the audience listening or watching on YouTube regarding writing testimonials, case studies, having that content that's really going to drive results in sales?
Amen. It's in my chapter. I say, perceived value and influencing deal success rate, and it comes out of like my experience working with thousands of companies, where very often the marketing and sales department is two siloed teams, so to speak, working with different objectives, different KPIs, and pushing towards different results. Essentially, the KPI should be one and the same. So the quicker, if you're running a small company, right, and you're freelancing your marketing stuff to somebody else, there's so much marketing stuff you get done. You get pitched by somebody every day about this new hack and this new channel, and you can do TikTok, Facebook, or Google, or Microsoft. There's a lot of things, like what to choose, what's the best thing. The best thing you can do is try to say, okay, when I'm doing something from a marketing standpoint, will it enable customers to acquire with less resistance? Are they going to be? Is it going to influence the deal success rate? Are they going to buy into the concept? Are they going to stay longer with me as a customer? Is it going to mitigate customer churn? So I am under the notion that whatever marketing do, it should be with a sales enablement approach, right? So again, proposals, it's a great way to start, right? Immediately, if you can increase your win rates from 20 to 40%, I mean, it doesn't require a mathematician to determine what the outcome is going to be from that. Testimonials, case studies, and all that. Try to figure out a way where you can systemize it almost and create a process so that, okay, how are you incentivizing all members within your organization? Like, I even like to create contests. Who can create the most testimonials this month will get a dinner, an XYZ, and get a gift certificate. Why? Now all of a sudden I have the whole company competing in collecting customer testimonials, and guess what? When customer says, hey, do you have a referral or something like that? Yes, we blast them with 50 they can do. So it's all about trying to say, how can you align your troops, especially sales and marketing, towards creating collateral that will help you grow revenue in short. Whether that's case studies, testimonials, or the proposal, or blog posts that you can use in the sales process, whatever it is. In my book, I actually have 20 sales enablement collateral examples that is straight for the picking that you can apply immediately, and it should help you, especially if you're in B2B sales, I would say.
Okay, great. And a lot of my audience is in B2B sales, and I find that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there because so many people are always focusing on the consumer sales. And, getting videos on TikTok. I teach part-time as adjunct faculty at a local university. Yeah. And it always amazes me how these students are writing their marketing plans and they're like, yes, I'm going to advertise on TikTok. I'm like, that's it? Like, what? I'm like, who's your audience? Where are you selling? Like, no. They don't even watch TikTok. I'm like, we just looked. But it's always really interesting, I think, to see what people put together. Now, is there anything else that you want to talk about from the book or highlight before I ask you my last question?
Yes. I would say, especially to your audience, as I see many entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or people who want to take the leap and start their own business, have the right systems in place, right? But not just the right system is placed, but first understand your process, right? Bake it out. Like the easiest way to tackle it, as if I was to say, okay, break it down into a simple formula. Keep it simple, stupid. Break out your customer journey. Identify all the touch points, right? Determine what those sales metrics could be, so you can measure, the effectiveness of that customer journey, and then you start looking at technology that can accelerate or amplify the success of that process. Instead of looking the other way around, it's like, oh my God, this company reached out to me with this cool application or this new software, this new reporting tool that can do X, Y, Z. So that's great, but how the heck is that? How are you going to use it? And how's that going to be a catalyst to what's really working out for you? So flip it the other way around. Start with the CRM, the bedrock of your business, understanding, segmenting your customers into different audiences and repeat customers, win back deals, implement customer satisfaction, service processes in there, how to upsell, cross-sell. That is the system you need to amplify everything. And then start adding all the sales and MarTech technology that's so modern. It's such a buzzword nowadays. But make sure you add it to the equation when it can make the biggest impact possible. I have a whole chapter on that in my book, and the reason I highlight that is because as an angel investor, I'm involved in a lot of companies now, and they're always like, let's look at your sales process, interview the sales team, and there's like 57 tools, right, and 37 of them are not used. I'm like, what the heck's going on here, right? Just focus on the few tools that actually make a difference, and then master them. Apply it to the best practice.
I'm laughing because I'm onboarding a new employee and I'm setting up some new things just and updating them, and I was like, and I've got a project that's like all my business information inside my Asana, and I've got a task that has the description. It says systems we use, and I'm like,
Whoa.
oh my goodness, that list is a little bit longer than it should probably be. But
Amen. Hey, I'm fall victim to that too, Kendra. No, that's normal. But at least you're aware. You're conscious about how to optimize it and how to, optimize the list, so to speak. So, good.
So before I let you go, Gary, I do want to ask you one last question, and it's something I ask every single one of my guests, and that is, what has been your biggest marketing lesson learned? Because this show is called Imperfect Marketing, because as you and I both know, marketing is anything but perfect.
My biggest.
So what's been your biggest lesson learned? Yeah.
Attribution, I would say, to put one word to it. It's freaking difficult at times, whether it's call analytics or cross-channel reporting. But just understanding, like you said, to Pareto's principle, like when I used to, we do a hell of a lot of PPC in my current company. And it's, as you said, it's typically, 20% of the keywords or, 20% of the zip codes in a certain targeted location that actually drives 80% of the results. So being able to attribute what's actually working and then doubling down and cutting out the fat, that's the most effective thing. It's like, I think it was like, what's it, Pennyweather? I can't remember the name. The famous quote, like, I know half of my advertising spend is wasted. The question is which half, right? That is not the problem anymore, ladies and gentlemen. So if you know how to attribute appropriately, you can really optimize your business overall.
Oh, I love that because I don't think enough people talk about that, because you can track. And
Everything.
Sometimes if you're in a super simple business and you're not doing a lot of pay-per-click or anything like that, you can do little things like just asking someone where they heard about you. I did that when one person called me to work with me, and unfortunately, I worked with someone else that competed against him, and I couldn't do that in my business. But I'm like, so where did you hear from me? They're like, I found you in the Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages online. I'm like, who looks at the Yellow Pages online? I'm like, well, I found that person, and that's why you want to be listed places. And it was a free listing, so it's like, what does it hurt? But it's very interesting. Even just asking that question, going back to what you were saying about talking to people and picking up the phone, and when you find out where people heard about you, you can attribute it to what's working and what's not. So thank you. I love that.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Gary, for spending time with us. Thank you so much for talking about your book. We got the 0 to 100 million sales blueprint. We'll have a link on how you can get that. And then Gary and his team is also offering you guys a special offer. So the first 50 listeners that type in the code Imperfect Marketing, which again will be in the show notes, we'll get a free copy of his book. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it. I've only made it partially through, to be honest, but I'm working through it, and I love what you have to share. I love all the experience and stories in it. And thank you guys all for tuning in and listening to Gary and his story. I think that there's so much to learn and so much to gain out of it. If you learned anything, you could really help me out by rating and subscribing to this podcast wherever you're listening. Thank you guys all for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.